Okay, Brian, we'll go ahead and start. Good evening, everyone. Thought I'd start off with banging the gavel since I'm going to be banging it a lot tonight with all of our public hearings. So I welcome you to the January 29th, 2024 edition of the Homewood City Council meeting. We're glad you're all here. We appreciate it. Unfortunately, we're going to put the proclamation on at a different meeting. So we will not have the proclamation tonight. Just wanted to give everyone a heads up on that. So I'd like to call the meeting to order, and like to first call on Bo Sechrist for our invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you'll all rise.
Father, we just thank you for this day, God. Lord, we thank you for all of our many blessings, Father God, and I just thank you for each and every person that's represented here tonight, Father. Lord, I ask as we come together that you would just be with each and every person in here, Father. Lord, I ask that you be with the council, Father God, and the leadership of our great city. Lord, as we make decisions that will have an outcome on the future of this city. God, I pray for unity tonight. I pray for clarity. I pray for us to come together in one mind and in agreement, Father God, as we make these decisions. Lord, I ask that you bless our efforts, bless our city, bless our residents, Father God, bless our police and fire, Father God. And Lord, I just ask that you just be with us the next few minutes, and as we part and go our separate ways, that you be with each and every person. Lord, we thank you, and I praise your name, and it's in Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen. Face the flag. Attention. Salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Sechrist.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate that. If you'll go ahead and call roll.
Yes, sir. Councilor Walton. Here. Gear.
Here.
Alama.
Here.
Wolverton. Here. Sims. Jones.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Nelms.
Here.
Andrus.
Here.
Harden. Here. And President White.
All right. As you can tell, President White is not here, so that's why I'm here. So we have 9 people tonight, so we do have a quorum present. First of all, do I have a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes for the council meeting on January 28th and approve them as distributed?
January, and second, and it's January 8th.
January 8th, sorry, January 8th. That was Councilor Smith. I believe that was Wolverton as the second.
No, it was
Alamon, sorry. Okay. Okay, any questions on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. That passes 9-0. Okay, board vacancies. I believe we have at-large park board that closed on the 8th of January. Do we have a motion? You had
Yes,
interviews?
Mr. Gwaltney and Ms. Andrus and myself interviewed 3 really fine candidates, and I would like to make a motion to appoint Jeremy Bernstein as the at-large representative on the park board.
Second.
Okay, moved by Councilor Smith, second by Councilor Gwaltney for Jeremy Bernstein. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. That's 9-0 to appoint him. Congratulations. Okay, and then are there others for BZA supernumerary?
Yes, we have 2 supernumerary positions, and we received 1 application for each of those spots. John Gear is already serving in one of those spots and reapplied to keep his position for another term. He is eligible for another term. So I would move to appoint John Gear, reappoint John Gear to his
Second.
supernumerary spot.
Second.
Okay, moved by Counselor Smith, second by Counselor Andrus. Any questions on that? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. That's 9-0
And then
for
we have.
John Gear.
And sorry, we have a second one.
Winslow Armstead?
We have a second supernumerary position, and we received an application from Winslow Armstead, and I would make a motion to appoint Winslow to that spot.
I will second that. And he, just to clarify, he serves on the planning commission. That's not an issue, right?
No, because so did Stewart.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so Stewart is not going to be.
Stewart is not. We did not realize it at the time, at the last meeting on January the 8th, but Stewart had already served 2 terms, so he was ineligible to serve another term.
Gotcha, okay.
So Winslow is, so it'll be the same thing as Stewart, serving on both.
Well, I happily second your nomination, second your
So you
motion.
seconded that?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So moved by Counselor Smith, second by Counselor Andrus, to appoint Winslow Armstead to the
BZA.
BZA supernumerary. Okay, any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. That's 9-0.
And then finally, for the Ward 4 spot on BZA, we actually ended up having 2 applications for that spot, so we're gonna need to set interviews for that, Bo.
Okay, and when would you like to do that?
Let's see. Could we try to set them with Megan and Brian for next, either Wednesday, the 7th, or Thursday, the 8th? I guess check with on which of those days.
Could you
would
check
best.
and see what day's better? And then you want to start at 5?
Yes. I mean, there's only 2 of them, so if they needed to back it up a little bit, that'd be fine with me. But
Yeah. Okay. So that is the interview set for that. So we need for the, we have lots of Arts Council positions, so if you're interested in the Arts Council, we would love to have you. We have 2 at-large positions that are open, and then we have Award 4 and Award 5 opening
For arts?
for Arts,
Okay.
Arts Council. Arts Council. So when would we like to keep that open until the end of maybe February 26th?
4 weeks, please, yeah. The last of February would be great. Mhm.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Gear. So we'll leave those open until the 20,
Those are just now coming open, yeah. just
okay, the
announcing those.
26th of February. Okay. Okay, great. Okay, that takes care of any other board vacancies that we did not bring forth here. Okay. Additions to the agenda. I only have one addition, so under new business would be 280124, request to appoint Bo Sechrist as Assistant City Clerk. You have your resolutions in front of you, so that will be a resolution we'll handle under new business. Are there any other additions to the agenda? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, moved by Mr. Harden, second by Mrs. Smith. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign, 9-0. The agenda is set. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. We just have one item on there. I'm sure you've had time to read through that. Any questions on that? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that was Mrs. Nelms, and who, was that Mr. Gwaltney down there? Thank you. Okay, any questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, 9-0. Passes. All right. We have lots of people who are going to be speaking with the various committees. Since I'm
Walter.
not going to build a report on finance.
Yeah,
Yes.
can you gavel? It's very distracting out there, the chatty.
Yeah, does anybody have a question out in the audience?
Mr. Smith.
What's that going on?
Is there a question we need to address?
It's kind of distracting. I'm sorry. The conversation that's happening.
Okay, thank you. Want to make sure we didn't need to do something there. Okay, so as I was mentioning, we have various people who are going to be reporting out this. I've asked Mrs. Smith to report out finance tonight. So as we go through here, we'll start with old business, 01/12/23. Bid opening set for January 8th at 4:30 for Reese Street sidewalk. Cale Smith, I'm asking Mrs. Smith to report from finance tonight.
Sure. We heard from Mr. Smith at our committee meeting last week and voted 4-0 to recommend approving this item. The motion was made by Mr. Gwaltney and seconded by myself.
Okay. Hearing the motion from finance, is there any questions, comments on that? Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. That's 9-0. That's resolution 2404. And Mr. Segrets, if you'll help me keep straight on the numbers, make sure I don't get off on the numbers, that would be great. Thank you in advance. Okay, so moving on, 01/01/24, request for consideration of budget amendment for FY 23-24. Mrs. Smith from Finance.
Yes, okay. We met last week, heard from Mr. Smith, and voted 4-0 to recommend approving this item. And the motion was made by Mr. Gwaltney and seconded by myself.
Okay, hearing a report from Finance. Any questions on that? Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. 9-0, that passes. Resolution 2405. Okay, 02/01/24, request to declare the following items surplus: 2015 Chevrolet Tahoe and 2016 Chevrolet Tahoe, coming to us from Gordon James. So Mrs. Smith, report from Finance.
The committee met and voted 5-0, because Mr. Alamon had joined us at that point, to recommend approving surplusing the two items. The motion was made by myself and seconded by Counselor Harden.
Okay, thank you for that report. If we can go ahead and have the first reading, Mr. Kendrick.
Yes, it's an ordinance to declare certain personal property of the city as surplus, whereas established and declared that the following described personal property of the city is no longer needed for public or municipal purposes and therefore declared surplus. 2015 Chevy Tahoe, VIN number ending in 0047, and a 2016 Chevy Tahoe, VIN number ending in 8347. Section 2 says the mayor be and is authorized, directed to dispose of the property described in section 1 above by conveyance to Travelers Insurance Company as a part of a pending claim on the city's current insurance policy.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. I was talking to Mr. Segrets earlier. The procedure is if we want to carry this over for the next meeting, we can, but we can also ask for unanimous consent to dispense with this tonight. So is there a motion for unanimous
So
consent?
moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mrs. Smith, second by Mrs. Andrus, for unanimous consent. Mr. Segrets, if you'll call a roll.
Yes, sir. Counselor Gwaltney?
Yes, sir.
Gear?
Yes.
Allamon? Yes. Wolverton?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Nelms?
Yes.
Andrus?
Yes.
Harden?
Yes.
Okay, that passes 9-0.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mrs. Smith, second by Mr. Wolverton. Heard you first, I believe. Any questions on that? Okay, hearing none, if you'll call roll, Mr. Segrets.
Yes, sir. Counselor Gwaltney?
Yes, sir.
Gear?
Yes.
Allamon?
Yes.
Wolverton?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Nelms?
Yes.
Andrus?
Yes.
Harden?
Yes.
All right, that passes 9-0, and that'll be ordinance 2885. Okay, thank you for that. 08/01/24, request to authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with Alabama Graphics, Aegis Funding for 36-month plotter lease. report from finance. Mrs. Smith.
Yes, we heard from Mr. Smith. Apparently, this is the model that most offices are going to. Instead of owning their plotters, they lease them. And it actually works out to be a little less expensive. So the committee voted 5-0 to recommend approving this item. Motion made by Mr. Harden and seconded by Mr. Gwaltney.
Thank you for that report. 5-0 out of finance. Are there any questions or comments on that? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. That passes 9-0, and that's resolution 2406. 06-12-23, request for consideration to permit a retaining wall in the right-of-way adjacent to 1629 25th Terrace South. Coming to us from Padilla, Malaya, and Camacho, Patricia. Mr. Harden had chaired the meeting that night, so if you'll provide a report from
Yes, sir.
Public Works, please.
After hearing from Malco Padilla, the committee voted 5-0 to recommend approval pending indemnification agreement with the homeowner. The motion was made by Councilor Gear and seconded by Councilor Wolverton.
Okay, any questions or comments on that? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. Passes 9-0. Resolution 24-07. 03-01-24, request for consideration to permit replacement of existing retaining walls in the right-of-way at 214 Edgewood Boulevard. Coming to us from Clayton and Rachel Mobley. Mr. Harden, if you'll report all.
Yes, sir. After hearing from Britton Garrett, the committee voted 5-0 to recommend approval pending indemnification agreement. The motion was made by Councilor Wolverton and seconded by Councilor Sims.
Great, thank you for that report. Any questions, comments on that? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. That passes 9-0. That's resolution 2408. Okay, let's see here. Let's see, I do not see, okay, there we are. Okay, 08-12-23 is our next item. Public hearing, like I said, we have a lot of public hearings. Public hearing continued from January 8th at 6 p.m. for consideration of sign variances for South Point Bank at 1720 28th Avenue South. And as you will recall, we sent this back to special issues, so I will ask for a report from you. You're doing double duty tonight, but Mrs. Smith, if you'll report out from special issues.
Yes, we met last week, and like Mr. Jones said, this item had been in council. We had opened the public hearing, and then we referred it back to committee so that we could hear from representatives from the bank. And so we heard from Cale Holt, Lynn Woodall, and Steve Smith, and they have revised somewhat their request, their signage request. And we had given them some feedback, and we really appreciated the fact that they took some of that to heed. So the committee voted 5-0 to refer this item back out to the full council without recommendation pending the public hearing tonight, the continuation of the public hearing tonight. And the motion was made by Ms. Anderson, seconded by Mr. Allen.
Great, thank you for that report. Are there any, Mr. Pugh, any report that you want to, or any information you want to share? I was at the meeting. If you'll just kind of recap that for us, that would be great.
Yes, sir. Brian has an exhibit which shows the revised signage plan. On the front gable, there is the internally illuminated sign, and then there will be an internally illuminated wall sign in the ATM area, just above the ATM in the little cove. They proffered to do away with what they had originally requested was a sign on the sort of little drive-through night drop. It was an illuminated sign that they offered to do away with, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
For that. Okay, since we're, I'm not going to bang the gavel because we're under a continued public hearing. I will when we close it. And there goes something rolling across the floor. Want to open it up for any comments from the public? Anyone here who wishes to speak to this item, welcome to come up. Okay. Seeing no one coming up, we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing. At what time? 6:22. Okay, council, any comments?
I
From
think, I just would say that we did, in the first meeting in the committee room, we made some suggestions to their sign company about things that we thought maybe could not happen. And they took that to heart, and we heard a very nice presentation from Ms. Woodall. And I'm pleased with where we've landed. So, I would make, unless anybody else has other comments, I would make a motion to approve.
Second.
I think that was Allemon. I heard Mrs. Smith and Counselor Allemon seconded that. All right. Any other questions, comments? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign?
No.
Okay, 9 to 1, 8 to 1, 8 to 1, that passes. And that will be Resolution 24-09. Thank you all. You're dismissed.
Or you can stay for the fun.
Yeah, yeah, we'll be here a little while longer. Okay, moving on, 040124, request to set public hearing for consideration of sign variance at 1916 28th Avenue South from White House Interiors. Report from Special Issues.
Yes, we met last week and heard from Cassie Burchell, who works for the sign company, and the committee voted 5-0 to refer this item out to the full council without recommendation pending the public hearing tonight. And, decided to refer the item out and set the public hearing for February 12th, 2024 at 6 p.m. The motion was made by Ms. Andrus and seconded by Mr. Allemon. So we'll set that public hearing for February the 12th.
Okay. I guess we'll go ahead and just have a vote on that. All in favor of setting a public hearing, 2/12/24, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign, that's 9-0, so we'll have that public hearing on the 12th at 6 p.m. Thank you. Okay, 071023, public hearing set for January 29th at 6 p.m. for consideration of proposed revisions to the city's zoning ordinance. Mr. Smith, he said he had about an hour of material.
It's 153 pages, so.
Yeah, I know, but we're going to have a condensed presentation because I'm sure everyone here on the council has read through the 153 pages. So if you'll just provide a brief overview of this, I would appreciate it.
Sure. So about 18 months ago, staff from my department, Wyatt Pugh, Counselor Andrus, formed an zoning ordinance working group with stakeholders from the local construction industry to go through the entire ordinance and figure out where there was confusion and what was missing. Our stakeholders included William Siegel from Twin, Joe Ellis from Dwelling Architecture, and Jared Bussey from Architectural Cooperative. It was important for us to have folks that work every day within our zoning ordinance to be a part of the conversation and not be on the outside looking in. This group has also done a good job of discussing potential revisions with other engineers and design professionals and contractors that provide these services in Homewood, so it shouldn't come as a shock to anyone. Our group met 5 times between September 22 and February 23, and at that point, we'd identified so many administrative corrections that were needed. We didn't have the capacity upstairs that we partnered with the Regional Planning Commission to go through the entire ordinance and to revise, to repeal and replace the ordinance that's in front of you tonight. So the 3 main goals that were visited in revising the document were, number 1, to eliminate consistencies, to add clarity to vague language, and to accurately reflect how modern policies and procedures are implemented. Most of the revisions in the document are administrative, but there are a handful of changes, and I'll mention a few of those now. Definitions were inserted, revised, and deleted where necessary. Off-street parking requirements for commercial developments were right-sized where appropriate. That includes moving from a gross square foot area to a net square foot area when calculating parking. We also reduced the amount of parking requirements for restaurants. Max lot coverage area requirements and impervious surface allowances were reduced to accommodate the city's existing infrastructure needs, stormwater infrastructure needs. So that's what the document is. What it's not, we're not rezoning any property, and we're not changing any zoning classification. So if you are C4 tonight, you will be C4 tomorrow. So that's all I have. I'll be glad to answer any questions. It is 153 pages, and I don't have it all memorized. It's not perfect, but like William said in an earlier email, in this case, it's important to not let perfect be the enemy of the good. I'll also, before you open it up, I'll mention that I got an email from Mr. Ravi Patel earlier this afternoon, who had a question, and he is here tonight. That's what we were talking about in the back. We removed definitions for hotel, motel, and transient. And so those don't really have any impact on the zoning ordinance. For those specific definitions don't, they're existing definitions. And he is asking that they remain in the current zoning ordinance that you're hearing tonight. So I don't know if we can allow for those three definitions to remain in the zoning ordinance tonight or not.
Don't look at me.
Okay.
Well, we'd have to change what we're voting on tonight, would we not?
But if it's not considered
Substantial.
substantive change, then that's what my understanding of that, I don't know.
Mr. Kendrick?
Well, can it be considered?
It's, unless, the council can make modifications as long as it's not substantial from what's been published.
I mean, would that be considered if we just left something in that was already
That's your
there?
call. That's the council's determination.
And Kale, how, like, will that make a difference in terms?
No.
It will not.
It won't.
Okay.
I'm not sure that I understand really what he's asking for.
What is it, what did we change it to, Kel? And then we took it out altogether.
We took those three definitions out, and we we identify the use in the use chart as lodge, I think exterior access and interior access. But it was important to Mr. Patel that the transient definition remain in place, and it only has, which is less than 180 days. So our intent with the zoning ordinance was not the proliferation of extended stay motels by any means. And so he felt like the definition of transient should stay in the zoning ordinance, and the only way that has any teeth is if the hotel and motel definitions stay in there as well.
Okay. So as is, we take the recommendation that's been put before us, unless someone has any amendments.
We would do that after the
Yeah.
public hearing.
Yeah,
I mean, if we-
yeah, go ahead with the first reading.
Unfortunately, I'll try to summarize as best I can.
Thank you, Mr.
It's an
Kennedy.
ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance for the city of Homewood, which is Appendix A entitled Zoning of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Homewood, Alabama, previously adopted by the city council. Be ordained as follows, that the zoning ordinance for the city of Homewood, which is Appendix A of the Code of Ordinances, hereby amended to read as follows. And what has been done is reported by Mr. Smith, is that the current zoning ordinances have been recommended to be amended in certain locations and aspects. Article 1 was added a purpose, it's added a reference to a comprehensive plan. Article 2, there were numerous definitions added and subtracted by the city staff and the Regional Planning Commission. It's set out in Article 2. Article 3, general regulations, Section C, replace zoning administrator with zoning official. Section E, and provided that the zoning official may interpret the uses. Section G and I created a separate section for non-conforming uses in buildings and non-conforming lots. Article 4, entitled District Uses, rename non-planned residential districts according to dwelling types. All other detached dwelling unit districts, which is NPD, R1, R2, and R3, inserted a new intent to clarify the district from one another. for all attached dwelling units and planned residential districts, which are R4, 5, 6, 7, PR1, PR2, inserting a new intent to better distinguish the districts from one another. Inserted to Section K, residential use table, which contains a matrix of all residential districts and their permitted uses. This table refers back to the individual zoning district sections for use restrictions where applicable. For business, institution, plan, office, commercial, mixed use, and urban renewal districts, which are all the C districts, C4A, C4B, C5, institutional 1, 2, 3, PCD 1, PCD 2, M1, P1, PMUD, MXD, EURD, GERD, and LPD. Insert a new intent to better distinguish the districts from one another. There are no changes to the Brookwood Overlay District. The West Homewood District was updated to include the recently adopted amendments from the May 2023. Inserted Section GG, which is a non-residential use table, and for MXD and LPD, added supplemental use regulations to list other regulations that do not apply to these districts. Article 4, supplemental use restrictions. Article 6 deals with district development criteria. Section C deals with front setback modifications. Section D deals with accessory structures. Inserted is Section E, which dealt with accessory dwelling units. Section 8 is commercial glazing requirements. Added this new section which stated required clear, unobstructed glazing in commercial and non-mixed-use districts. Section L added the fence ordinance, erection, location, construction of exterior fences and walls in its entirety. Section M dealt with open spaces for attached residential districts. Article 7 deals with the required development districts. Replace this article with the revised as revised by the city staff. Article 8, all-street parking. Section C clarified that spaces for mixed joint uses are not computed separately in urban renewal and mixed-use districts. Section D added sections stating that spaces requirements are calculated according to the net floor area and defines the net floor area. Section F, updates to allow building owners to utilize publicly owned all-street parking to count toward the required parking minimums if they share property lines. Section G, revised shared parking regulations to include more plain language. In general, multiple uses may share parking if they sign a joint parking agreement. Section K, deleted this section which stated that no all-street parking spaces except for detached dwelling units districts shall be entered or exited directly upon a public street. Section N, updated the required parking table. Section O, rewrote to allow development requiring a development plan to determine parking as part of the process. Section 9, Roman numeral 9 is tree protection and landscape ordinance was added to the zoning ordinance. Article 10 is reserved. There were no changes. Article 11, administrative review process. Section A, updated the zoning official, city engineer, and building official is permitted by the administrator. Section A2, added a section detailing other technical codes adopted by the city and renumbered below to the sections needed. Section A5, clarified that zoning official authorizes the final development plan. Section B, variances, added new section to delineate intent, procedure, and conditions for variances and renumbered as needed. Section 2, the January the 29th, 2024 at 6:00 p.m. is the time and place for the public hearing. Section 3, if any part of provision order is declared to be unconstitutional or invalid by any court of competent jurisdiction, all other parts or provisions remain in full force and effect. In Section 4, that the ordinance shall become effective immediately upon its adoption by the city council, approved by the mayor, is otherwise becoming law.
Beautiful job. Thank you. All right, we never got a report from Mrs. Andrus, so if you could provide a report from Planning and Development.
After hearing from Mr. Smith, committee voted 5-0 to recommend setting a public hearing for January 29th. Microphone on, sorry. And referring to the full council without recommendation pending the public hearing. The motion was made by Councilor Nelms and seconded by Councilor Gwaltney.
Okay, great, thank you. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Are there any comments from the public? If you'll just, is there a sign-up sheet up there? Still to provide your name and address.
Jeffrey
Appreciate
Ketchum, and it's 801 Forest Drive. Just wanted to voice my support for these changes. I think Kale and everybody involved has done a lot of due diligence. And as a contractor here in town and as a resident, hearing the complaints and the frustrations with the bottlenecks, kind of common sense things. It doesn't have to be perfect. I think this fixes a lot. And it does make you wary when you start changing things that are, what you do every day for a living. But I think they make a lot of sense, and I wanted to voice my support for it.
Thank you, Mr. Ketchum. Thank you. All right, any other comments from the public? Seeing no one, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Comments from council?
Mr. Jones, did you mention the letter that we got from Mr. Siegel? That he sent an email, obviously in support, obviously he was part of the process, but if you don't mind, I'll take a quick second to read this. He was not able to join us tonight. He is a builder, design professional, and most importantly, a proud Homewood resident. Homewood has always struggled with outdated, hard to interpret, and hard to enforce language in its municipal code documents. Your building, engineering, and zoning departments have worked extremely hard over the last year to create new language in the Muni Code that would hold architects, design professionals, and builders to the regulations and standards that have become important to the city. The new language will be consistent with other local municipalities, is easier to interpret, and will ultimately be easier to enforce for city personnel. The key changes will call for an overall reduction in the footprint of building structure on a property, limit the amount of accessory structure that can be built in a rear yard, and encourage builders to consider permeable surfaces for driveways and patios. I'm confident that the changes will allow architects and design professionals to meet their client needs for their home. The Twin team is in support of the changes and hope that the council will approve the changes for Homewood residents. He also goes on to say, I'm sure that the document is not perfect, and there will likely be items that come up now or over the next few months that need to be discussed and addressed as a team. I would encourage you to consider that we are currently working with a document that does not serve its intended purpose. It is not a good working document. If you vote to change the Muni Code, I feel certain that your city departments will continue to evaluate future changes and clarifications that may need to be made in subsequent revisions. Please realize, in this case, perfect is the enemy of good. Thank you for your service and attention to this matter.
All right, thank you for that.
I'd
Appreciate
also
it.
just want to thank Cale and the committee, but Cale in particular, for taking this on. It was important. He came here, I think he saw what we were dealing with, and he had a vision how to make it easier and better for those who have to deal with it every day, and I want to thank him.
Wonderful. All right, any other? All right, is there a motion for a unanimous consent?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Wolverton and second by Ms. Gear for unanimous consent.
I was just gonna.
Oh, you were not moving.
Sorry, no, I was gonna ask real quick if we were open to bringing back the definitions into the.
That's something you could do at any point.
Like when you make if you were to make the motion
Gotcha.
to approve,
Yeah.
you could say
So
approve
that would
with.
be my motion then, would be to go ahead and.
What, no, this
Well,
is just a
we've gotta-
motion. This
yeah,
is
we gotta have-
unanimous
Unanimous
consent.
consent, sorry.
Yes,
We
you have
gotta-
to wait until.
yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
unanimous
so-
consent, sure.
So you're unanimous consent, you're
Yeah.
you're moving that, Mrs. Gear is
Sorry.
seconding that. Mr. Seegers will call roll for unanimous consent.
Yes, sir. Counselor Gwalding,
Yes.
Gear,
Yes.
Holloman,
Yes.
Wolverton,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Nelms,
Yes.
Andrus,
Yes.
Harden.
Yes.
All right, that passes 9-0. Okay, so.
Motion for approval.
Mr. Gwaltney is moving for approval.
With the amended definitions.
Second.
Um,
I'm sorry. Are you amending what we?
No,
He's not.
no. The motion is just to approve what has been,
Mr. Wolfton.
That's what I was trying to,
yeah,
well, that's what I was trying to motion earlier.
okay. Let's go ahead and get the original motion. You can offer a substitute motion. if you would like to do that.
That would be my motion, is to just add back the definition.
Hold on a second, so,
I've seconded
so,
Mr. Gwaltney's motion.
okay, Counselor Gwaltney moved that, I heard it down here. Mrs. Andrus seconded the motion to approve it as distributed, as published. So, discussion. So, Mr. Wolverton, so you're wanting to reinsert that at this point?
It just sounded as though it wasn't going to alter any of the intended changes, but preserved. Is that correct, Cale?
I mean, I'm okay with leaving it in too, or putting it back in, I guess is the.
What would be the opposition to not putting it as part, in terms of discussion?
I thought we would vote on the original
Yeah,
and
I
then.
just,
that
I
was
like
my-
things to be clean and it's been published and we.
Yes.
and
Particularly when you have a motion and a second.
The-
If that's on the table, if you want to amend it, you can have a substitute motion, as Mr. Jones said.
That we could follow.
Well,
But so-
not if this one passes.
That would amend what's been published.
All right, so let's go, so what you're saying, Mr. Kendrick, we'll go ahead and have the vote for,
No, sir, he can make a motion to amend the motion.
okay, before we vote, okay.
Yeah, so the reason I went ahead and made the motion for the original was because there's no change. It doesn't make a difference either way. So instead of us having to go back and make an amended motion and changing what Mr. Smith proposed, I thought the original, what we advertised to the public was the appropriate thing to go with. I don't want there to be any
And
confusion.
then come back, if we need to come back later, we can, and make any change.
Because it's not gonna have any relevant difference.
No, I didn't hear that, though. I did hear Mr. Smith say that without the definition, the 180 days has no teeth. And so there is a difference if we don't have it in there.
For us or for him.
Well,
Because we don't allow 180 days now.
I mean, I just want to know what the purpose, if there is a change. I'm trying to get clarification as to why we leave it in or don't leave it in, right? But I want us to be clear. And in my understanding of Robert's Rules of Order, we also allow an amended motion.
Yeah, we do, yeah.
Before we vote.
Correct. We would.
And so.
The motion would be for an amended, whatever it is.
Yes.
You vote on that.
Vote on that, right.
And then if that's passed, then the main motion is amended. If it fails, then the main motion's on the floor.
Okay, so could you clearly state your motion to amend?
Yeah, it would just be to add back the definitions of hotel, motel, and
Transitory.
transient.
Okay, and is there a?
As was in the previous version of
And I want to make sure I understand exactly, what does that do for us?
Hold on one second.
Okay.
Hold on one second. Look, we need a second before we move into discussion. Is there a second on the amended? Okay, Counselor Alaman seconded. Okay, so now it's on the motion as amended. Mr.
Okay,
Hart.
I apologize, getting out of order there. So, Mr. Smith, could you walk back up here, please, and better explain this for everyone so we know what we're doing?
I can try.
Okay.
So the comment came to me about 2 hours ago, and then I just met Mr. Patel 20 minutes ago, and he kind of talked me through what the issue was. Apparently with the transient language, that language was adopted by the previous council in 2019 and was added to the zoning ordinance at that time. It was not our intent to remove it, to undo anything that the 2019 council had done. And I don't understand exactly why it was done in 2019, but apparently it has to do with extended stay hotels and their ability to get financing with that language in there.
Well, I think we were also trying to get in line with the state, with the state
Right.
code. I mean, we were outside of the state code.
Okay.
So that's what we were doing at the time.
And so in this zoning code, in the previous zoning code that had those three definitions, there was a definition of transit which allows 180 days stays, correct?
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Let me ask a question, because I don't really understand. If you add definitions that you took out, wouldn't you also have to go in and under permitted uses, re-add those same
So
definitions?
hotels and motels aren't included in permitted uses at all.
What good does a definition do?
So the transient definition references hotels and motels. And hotels and motels definition references the transient definition.
But I'm confused, I am confused. So there's no permitted use for hotels and motels?
There is, yeah. It's,
Okay.
so it's lodging,
Okay.
interior access, and lodging exterior.
Okay,
access.
so so adding those definitions doesn't affect the fact that those permitted uses are already there.
Right.
It just specifies more succinctly what those permitted uses are, I guess,
Yes.
or expands them.
And I had a quick question. If it was that in 2019, this is before my time, and Counselor Andrews mentioned that it was to put ourselves in line with the state code at that time. And so would we be putting ourselves out of this alignment with the state code if we remove them? This is, I'm just curious, ignorance. I'm pleading ignorance.
No.
We still be in line with the state code. But so I don't get that part because.
I'm just trying to understand
Because
what
like
the
if-
purpose of putting
Then
the
what was
definition
clear,
is.
then if it was put in 2019 to be in line with the state code, then why do that at the first, if taking it out doesn't change that?
The limit, not the definitions, but the limit, the 180 days, the limit. That was what we voted on in 2019. That's what we passed in 2019.
And
Yeah,
that
but
would
we're
stay in
taking that out
place.
now.
That
No, we're
was-
not taking that out. We're just,
Yes, we are.
The definition would be removed.
Yes, we are.
The definition would be, is removed in the.
okay, I understand what you're saying, okay.
And so,
Definition
So-
is in the state code, we're bound by it anyway. It was because of an issue raised about someone that wanted to take a hotel and convert it to something,
Extended stay.
well, not extended stay,
Yeah,
they
it
wanted
was-
to convert it to a residential housing unit.
Okay.
And it was at Howard Johnson's, that is it. Well, that's true. But I suggest that we not do anything if we're gonna halfway do it, let's all understand what we're doing.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I have a
agreed.
different opinion than the gentleman in the back, so maybe he's right, but I don't think he is. We can debate that.
Yeah, I think this is gonna take more study on our part, and to figure this out, in an open meeting is kind of challenging until we gather more information, read about what
I
was
agree.
in it. So I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. We can, point of order in terms of, we do have a motion to amend and a second. So, Mr. Seegers, if you'll, any other comments before we, yes, Mr. Hart?
So, we got to vote whether to amend
On
it
the
or not.
amendment.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
vote on the amendment that's on the floor.
And
And
let's
that's
pretend we
why.
vote that down, just for fun. Let's pretend we vote it down. Are we still
Then we
voting
go
in
back to the
favor?
previous, we go back to the previous motion that's been published and distributed.
And if we do that, are we still able to eventually, next week, next year, whatever, make changes to this, correct?
At any time.
Yes,
Yep.
anytime.
But you give notice.
But you have to republish it.
Yeah, all the work they've done, I hate to not.
No, that's not the case.
We're
I
not
mean,
voting down the whole thing. This is
And I
for the
think
amendment.
the spirit of what, all the comments we continue to get is,
Yeah.
it's not perfect. We can't make it perfect, but we're getting there, and we can certainly make tweaks and amendments as we go along. So, Mr. Seegers, if you'll call roll for the amended motion.
Yes, sir.
Wait, I'm sorry,
This is-
Just for the
unanimous consent? Or is
No.
this for
No,
the
we're
actual?
voting.
The
vote
amendment.
on the amendment, okay, thank you.
Counselor Gwaltney?
No.
Counselor Gear?
No.
Counselor Alaman?
No.
Counselor Wolverton?
Yes.
Counselor Jones?
No.
Counselor Smith?
Yes.
Counselor Nelms?
No.
Counselor Andrews?
No.
Counselor
All right.
Hart?
No.
No.
All right.
Okay, so that
2
fails, that fails 2-7. 2-7, okay. So now we have before us the previous motion that, do we have a motion and a second on that? Who, I'm trying to remember, I didn't write down who.
Gwaltney, Andrus.
Walton made the motion.
Andrus seconded.
Gwaltney and Andrews, thank you. Made the previous motion. Okay, any questions on the original motion? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Seegers, if you'll call roll.
Yes, sir. Counselor Gwaltney?
Yes.
Gear?
Yes.
Alaman?
Yes.
Wolverton?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Nelms?
Yes.
Andrus,
Yes.
Harden.
Yes.
Okay, that passes 9-0. So thank you for your indulgence as we work through that. That is ordinance number 2886. Okay. 11/11/23, public hearing set for tonight, as you would know, 6 PM to consider proposed amendments to the Homewood sign ordinance. Mr. Pugh, is yours more simplistic than the previous one, or is it more complex? It's one page, it's not
Yes.
153.
Thank goodness.
Mr. Pugh.
The current proposed amendments deals with 3 sign types. The first sign type being temporary signs. Currently, the ordinance states that a temporary sign may be a freestanding sign, an attached sign, or a window sign. This proposed amendment would make it so that temporary signs may only be freestanding. That's number 1. The second amendment deals with window signs. Currently, window signs may cover 50% of each glazed window, and they may have backgrounds that can extend all the way to the edges of the window. This proposed amendment, which would cover all of Homewood, downtown district as well, proposes that signs may cover 20% of the window area, and the following sign types would be permitted: letters painted directly on the window, hanging signs behind the glass, and vinyl appliques. If vinyl appliques are used, they must consist of either 1, individual letters or graphics with no visible background, or if they do have a visible background, the visible background shall not extend beyond the approved sign area. So 20%, no extension.
20% of the glazing?
20% of the glazing, that's correct. Monument signs is the third sign type. Currently, the language of the ordinance doesn't really make a lot of sense. It says the sign must comply with the setbacks for the zoning district. So that would mean, I guess, they would have to be at the same place as the building is, which doesn't really make any sense. So the proposed amendment, which is also applicable to the downtown district, states that the sign must be set back so that it does not obstruct the view of motor vehicle operators entering a public roadway from any parking area, service drive, alley, or other thoroughfare, and in no case shall a monument be set back less than 5 feet. B, monument signs must be constructed of durable materials, and C, sign must be attached directly to the ground by its entire base.
Okay.
Can I ask one quick question about the monument signs?
Sure.
Is there a are there size requirements for those monument signs? I can't remember, I'm sure there are.
Yes, and that's actually spelled out in other
In the-
places in the
okay.
ordinance, but that's not being amended.
Okay, yeah, perfect.
Okay, and I'm going to try to go in the correct order here. Mrs. Andrus, if you can provide a report from Planning and Development.
Yes, after hearing from Wyatt Pugh, the committee voted 5-0 to recommend setting a public hearing for January 29th, tonight, 2024, at 6 p.m., and referring to the full council without recommendation pending the public hearing. The motion was made by Councilor Gwaltney and seconded by Councilor Nelms.
Okay, thank you for that report. I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Are there any comments from the public? Okay, seeing and hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. If we can have any comments from the council before we have
Can
the
I just
first
ask
reading?
Yeah, quick question, kind of to clarify like Barry was asking. No, it's all right. So with the glazing signage, that would affect current properties or businesses that are not in compliance have how much time to?
Well, there's nothing written in the ordinance about that. The way I'm looking at it is any new permit applications that come to me, I'm going to make sure that they're compliant.
Sure.
In terms of existing signs,
Yeah.
they're existing.
So I'm trying to think back. I know we had the ACE had come through.
Yeah.
They had changed theirs so that kind of the product was a little bit smaller part of the the
Mhm.
glazing covering and then kind of had the background, right? So
That's right.
currently, it's compliant with what we have.
Yes.
But I know there are multiple other businesses that never changed how they had full-faced covering
Mhm.
of the glazing. So if they're not even compliant with the previous version and we adopt this, do they have to come in compliance with the current?
Well, yes,
At
they
that point?
absolutely
Okay.
would, yeah.
Okay.
If they put up the signs without a permit
Right,
and they're not in compliance, we will continue working with them.
sure.
And from this point forward, they'll need to comply with the new ordinance if it passes.
And just to understand, it's a 20% total covering of the glazing, including the background, whatever that may be,
That's right.
correct? Okay.
That's right.
So that kind of addresses some of the issues that had come up in prior meetings regarding safety issues and being able to see into the businesses. and
That's
that
right.
sort of thing. Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions from the council?
Move
You
to
have none?
approve? No. just-
No, so let's go ahead and have the first reading.
Yeah. And then unanimous.
Yeah, he did a good
It's
description.
an ordinance to amend Article 5 entitled Signs of the Chapter 5 entitled Building, Construction, and Related Activities of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Homewood. Be it ordained as follows, that Article 5 entitled Signs is amended to read as follows. The only amendments to the current sign ordinance is the sections that Mr. Pugh has adequately described. There's Section 5-152 and Section 5-153 that deals with 152, the temporary signs as he described, and the window signs in the same section 152. The monument signs are found in 5-153 of the ordinance, and a new table is established as Table 3 in that ordinance. Otherwise, the sign ordinance remains as it currently is, other than those three areas.
Great, thank you, Mr. Kendrick. All right, is there a motion for unanimous consent?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Mrs. Andrews, second by Mr. Wolverton. If you'll call roll, please.
Yes, sir. Counselor Gwaltney?
Yes, sir.
Gear?
Yes.
Allemán?
Yes.
Wolverton?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Nelms?
Yes.
Andrus?
Yes.
Harden?
Yes.
Okay, that passes 9-0, so it's now on the table. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, Mr.
Second.
Harden, and let's see, I'll give that to Mrs. Nelms, I heard you, for the second. Mr. Seegers, if you'll call roll again.
Yes, sir. Counselor Gwaltney?
Yes, sir.
Gear?
Yes.
Allemán?
Yes.
Wolverton?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Nelms?
Yes.
Andrus?
Yes.
Harden?
Yes.
All right, that passes 9-0. That's ordinance 2887. Mr. Thomas, we're finally getting to your item here. 12/12/23, public hearing set for January 29th at 6 p.m. Consideration to approve amendment to the previously approved final development plan at 815 Green Springs Highway, otherwise known as the EDGE Mixed-Use Development Project, intended to reflect the approved resurvey and subdivision of the subject's property, current 4-acre site, into 2 separate lots to facilitate future development. So let's go ahead and get a report from Mrs. Andrews.
After hearing from J.J. Thomas, the committee voted 5-0 to refer this item to the full council without recommendation pending the public hearing. The motion was made by Counselor Gwaltney and seconded by Counselor Nelms.
Okay, thank you for that report. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Are there any comments from the public? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Comments from council?
Could we,
We all-
Brian, could you just put the pictures up? I think there were pictures. Yeah, there we go.
Yep.
It's just that number 4, right? Yeah.
Okay, any questions? Did a good job last week of explaining everything. We're very excited.
I'd make a motion for unanimous consent.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mrs. Smith, second by Mrs. Andrus. And let's go ahead and have the first reading.
It's an ordinance to amend the final development plan for the Greens, as required by the Green Springs Urban Renewal District for the property described in section 1 below in Exhibit A, attached here to previously approved by ordinance number 2873 on August 14, 2023. Whereas the Planning Commission has favorably recommended the amendment of the final development plan for the property described herein, now therefore to be ordained that the final development plan for the following described property, 815 Green Springs Highway, described in Exhibit A, be and the same is hereby amended pursuant to the final development plan attached as Exhibit B to the ordinance. That from and after the enactment of this ordinance, the final development plan attached as Exhibit B shall control the uses and restrictions applicable to the property described in Section 1 and in Exhibit A to the ordinance. Section 3, that January 29th is the time and place for the public hearing. Section 4, that the city clerk has provided notice as required by law for this public hearing. Section 5, that if any part of provision of the ordinance declared to be unconstitutional or invalid by any court of competent jurisdiction, all of the parts, provisions, or sections of this ordinance not thereby affected shall remain in full force and effect. Section 6, the ordinance shall become effective immediately upon its passage by the city council, approved by the mayor, as otherwise becoming law.
Thank you. Appreciate that, first reading. Do you maintain your
Yes, we
motion
maintain
for
it.
unanimous consent? And
Yes.
second by Mrs. Andrus, we'll keep that. So, Mr. Seegers, if you'll call roll.
Yes, sir. Counselor Gwaltney?
Yes, sir.
Gear?
Yes.
Holloman?
Yes.
Wolverton?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Nelms?
Yes.
Andrus?
Yes.
Harden?
Yes.
Nothing.
All right, that passes 9-0 for unanimous consent. Is there a motion to approve?
I will make that motion.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mrs. Andrus, second by Mrs. Nelms. If you'll call roll, please.
Yes, sir. Counselor Gwaltney?
Yes, sir.
Gear?
Yes.
Holloman?
Yes.
Wolverton?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Nelms?
Yes.
Andrus?
Yes.
Harden?
Yes.
That passes 9-0. That's ordinance 2888. Thank you for that. All right. I think we're nearing the end of the public hearings, maybe, I'm not sure. 13-12-23. Public hearing set for January 29th, 6 PM for consideration of rezone 3011 Firefighter Lane from R5 to R7. R. Shane Davis is the owner, Laura Brazil, to permit the construction of a 2-unit townhouse development consisting of a total of 3647 square feet. Mrs. Andrus, if you could provide a report for us from Planning and Development.
Yes. After hearing from Buffy Allen, the committee voted 4-0 to refer this item to the full council without recommendation pending the public hearing. The motion was made by Counselor Sims and seconded by Counselor Gwaltney.
Okay, thank you. Let's go ahead and open the public hearing. So comments from the public. Anyone want to come speak for or against this development? This redevelopment. Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And comments from the council on this. All right, let's go ahead and,
Picture of that,
yeah, why don't we go ahead and have the first reading, and then we can bring up any additional information. Mr. Smith can speak to it, and we have, applicant here as well. So, first reading, Mr. Kennedy.
It's an order to further amend the ordinance 1602 of the city of Homewood entitled zoning ordinance and the zoning map of the city as heretofore adopted on the 9th day of December 1986 and is heretofore amended. Whereas the Planning Commission has favorably recommended that the property described herein be rezoned from its current zoning classification R5 attached dwelling district unit to the R7 attached dwelling unit district, zoning district. Whereas the city council has found it necessary to set a public hearing and has set a public hearing for January the 29th, 2024. Now therefore to be ordained by the city council that the following described property, street address at 3011 Firefighter Lane, described in Exhibit A, B, and the same is hereby rezoned from its current zoning R5 to its R7 zoning district. Section 2, that from and after the enactment of this ordinance, that the restrictions applicable to R7 zoning district shall apply to this property. Section 7, at the time and place for the public hearing has been advertised by the city clerk. Section 5, that if any part of provision declared to be unconstitutional or invalid by a court of competent jurisdiction, all other parts or provisions remain in full force and effect. Section 6, this ordinance shall become effective immediately upon its passage by the city council, approval by the mayors, otherwise becoming law. Mr. Jones, could I make a comment about, this is just truly a rezoning? You had plans that were referenced, but they weren't proffered, so we're not bound by those. So all uses applicable to R7 would be applicable to this property, not any particular plans that have been discussed or even published, because they're not part of this zoning ordinance. At the
Okay.
election of the owner.
Okay, questions? And Mr. Smith, I don't know if you need to come up to address any questions, and then,
Yes, Mr. Smith, I would ask you, if you wouldn't mind just running through again, you know, as Ms. Allen has referenced, that what they have put together as far as the size of the lot, the setbacks that come with the zoning of R5, and now they're going to R7. Can you sort of go through that again with us as far as what's permitted, and what it was permitted now would be permitted with a zoning change, in other words, with the setback, with the way the lot sits, et cetera?
Sure, so R5 is for larger density, higher density, that would be really difficult to fit, impossible to fit on the current lot as it exists. R7, there is an option, which was shown. It's not, like Mr. Kendrick just said, not the option, not the only option. But it's not an option. R7 works here, whereas R5, it doesn't.
Meaning right now, if they wanted to go build anything on there of any substance, they couldn't make it fit on that lot based on the current
That's
zoning.
correct.
That's correct.
You couldn't get 2 units built on that, you could build 1.
Yeah, that would.
And you know, it's zoned multifamily, so it's not residential.
It's not NPD. It is residential.
I'm sorry.
It's not,
Yes,
right,
multifamily,
it's not NPD.
correct.
It's not single family,
Yeah, you can't
Right.
sell it as a residential.
right. Can't sell it as a single.
I mean, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Single family.
How large is that lot?
It's big. I mean, it's a nice size. I can't remember the square footage right now.
I can't either. Is there a survey, Brian? In there?
I'm guessing 42, that's probably too
Yep,
much.
go back to there.
Yeah, 42,000 square feet.
It's almost an acre.
150 by,
The square footage
It
is
says it's 10,942 square feet.
10,000, I'm coming up with 42.
so
Sorry,
a quarter of an acre.
a little rusty.
Yeah.
So the parking would be in front of the townhome. So Paul Gilbert, who is the architect that did this with Distinctive Designs in Hoover, and I thought he did a very nice job, but there would be no parking on the street, and each individual townhome would have parking in front. And it's, you know, I thought he did a great job of making it very consistent with the land use, Homewood's land use. And the adjacent property on Cook Street was just approved for R7 as well. So there are several others in the neighborhood that are like this. But if you drive down the street, it's just a little old yellow house that's, you know, it's not habitable. So the seller's going to demo the house, and then we'll just sell the lot. We're not going to develop it ourselves. And with the drawings are just simply to show what possibly could be approved to build that would work, and just sort of giving a little homework sheet to someone if they are interested in developing the property, is all it is. It's not approved.
I'd say the goal of the property owner is to make it more saleable.
Correct, yes. It's out on the market with a different agency for quite some time.
I remember.
And caught my eye and expired one day, and I just kept looking at it and didn't understand, you know, what was wrong, and then I figured it out with the help of Cale, who was very helpful when I called. So I think it just was sort of an oversight when and if they did zone that.
Well, I'm sure the property to the right, which are apartments, are zoned R7.
R5.
R5.
all right, any questions?
Uh, I do have a
Mrs.
question,
Gear?
because I wasn't
here when this was discussed in committee, so if you don't mind, and somebody did live there. I mean, it was a house, it was habitable. A
Yes,
person
and
lived there.
I'm sorry, I kind of glazed over that.
But
So-
it doesn't matter, that's not my point. Can you review what is able to be built on an R7 lot real quick? I don't,
You should have a
Kale.
packet,
I
with
didn't-
all the plans.
oh, I'm sorry.
Um,
I didn't look at that packet, obviously.
We'll just have to pull it up on the screen and go
It-
through it. And then, yeah, Mr. Smith has
I have my zoning ordinance tonight for other reasons.
An interesting tidbit, though, is Mr. Davis, who lived there, was the battalion chief, and he retired 18 years ago for the Homewood Fire Department. And his wife is behind me, and her mother, Ms. Brazil.
Maybe they had all firefighters living on that strip.
That's what she said. That's what she said. She said that's why they changed the name to the
R,
street.
R7 is to provide areas for townhouse dwelling units, permitted uses, townhouses, and accessory structures.
Okay, perfect.
Same thing for R5. They allow for the same thing, the densities in the district development criteria. For R5, your minimum lot area is 8,000 square feet plus 2,500 square feet per unit. So it's 10,000 square feet, so they would be able to build one unit under R5. And the setbacks, well, the minimum lot width at the front of the building is 65 plus 5 per unit, which is 70 feet across where the building would be allowed to be built. And I'm not sure that they would have that on this lot. The front setback is 35 feet, the rear setback is 35 feet. For R7, the minimum lot area is 3,100 square feet. The minimum lot width at the front building line is 24 feet, and the front setback is 24 feet, and the rear is 40 feet.
So are you saying
that
that
help?
we would, you could build less on an R5, less density?
I think you're saying you gotta have a 70 feet.
Okay, I like that better. Okay, very,
But it sounds like they wouldn't be able to do,
Yeah, they would be non-conforming.
it would be
Yeah.
conforming because of the width.
but we're not looking at what they're trying to develop.
Well, that's true, that's true.
Unless they tie that to the zone.
We're just trying to decide if we want to allow more density on this piece of property, it sounds like.
I thought what I heard from Kale was, if they wanted to tear that house down and rebuild on there of R5, it physically wouldn't work because of the frontage is not 70 feet.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
That's correct.
Go back to the survey,
It would be
Brian.
multifamily.
Yeah, and it's a multifamily zone, it's a multifamily
Right, but you
zoning
wouldn't be able to
designation.
build
Right,
multifamily.
and you wouldn't, it's non-conforming, it's not
It
Right.
would
compliant.
not be part of the zoning.
Right.
Yeah.
It would be out of.
Exactly,
That's
be
correct.
non-conforming.
And that was why I originally called
it is now.
Mr. Goodwin. I didn't understand, and I needed his help. Some of the sheet that he's reading from has missing numbers, so I kept trying to do the math, and he helped me along, and
So if you could only build one unit, that would make it a single-family home, which would
Which
be
is not
non-conforming
zoning.
with the R5.
correct,
Right.
correct. That's correct.
And
Which is why the house that's there
Correct.
currently is non-conforming.
That's correct, yes.
The intent for R5 is to provide areas for medium-density attached dwelling units.
The way Mr. Goodwin sort of explained it is, it's zoned medium density, and it's a large density lot. So it doesn't make sense.
All right, any other questions?
Yeah, it's us, yeah.
Yeah, y'all side of the street.
It is.
All right,
You ready for a motion for unanimous
Motion for
consent?
unanimous
Yeah,
consent.
I'll make it.
Oh, second.
Okay. Moved by Mrs. Andrews, second by Mrs. Smith. For unanimous consent, Mr. Seegers.
Counselor Gwaltney?
Yes, sir.
Gear?
Yes.
Allemán?
Yes.
Wolverton?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Nelms?
Yes.
Andrus?
Yes.
Harden?
Yes.
Okay, that passes 9-0.
I'll make a motion
Is
to
there a
approve.
motion to approve?
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
make that motion.
Mrs.
Second.
Andrus, and second by Mrs. Smith for approval. Mr. Segris. Roll
Yes,
call.
sir. Counselor Gwalding,
Yes, sir.
Gear,
Yes.
Allemán,
Yes.
Wolverton,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Nelms,
Yes.
Andrus,
Yes.
Harden.
Yes.
That passes 9-0. That's ordinance 2889. Thank you so much. All right. We'll look over the committee referral agenda. Is there a motion to approve the committee referral agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Nelms and Mr. Gwaltney seconded that. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. That passes 9-0. All right, now moving to other new business. And we've got 210124, request for consideration to surplus Canon image ProGraph IPF 825. Mr. Smith? Okay, so this is required because you're getting that new plotter.
That's correct.
So we need to surplus that, right?
That's correct.
Okay, okay. Mr. Kendrick, if you can give us our first reading.
Sure, it's an ordinance to declare certain personal property surplus, be ordained as follows: established and declared that the following described property, Canon Image Pro IPF 825 plotter, is declared to be surplus. The mayor's authorized and directed disposal of the property by trading the surplus plotter to Alabama Graphics for a new lease purchase plotter, which you've already approved.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kendrick. We have a motion for unanimous consent.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Mrs. Smith, second by Mrs. Nelms. Roll call vote, Mr. Segris.
Yes, sir. Counselor Gwaldney,
Yes.
Gear,
Yes.
Allemán,
Yes.
Wolverton,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Nelms,
Yes.
Andrus,
Yes.
Harden.
Yes.
All right, that passes 9-0. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that was Mr. Harden, and I believe that was Counselor
Gwaltney.
Wolverton.
Wolverton.
Wolverton, thank you. All right, it's been motion seconded. Any other questions? Mr. Segris, roll call vote, please.
Yes, sir. Counselor Gwaldney,
Yes, sir.
Gear,
Yes.
Allemán,
Yes.
Wolverton,
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Nelms,
Yes.
Andrus,
Yes.
Harden.
Yes.
9-0. Did you think we weren't going to pass that, Mr. Smith?
Yeah, he's over there. I almost said no just to wake him up.
Aw.
Well, okay. Okay, so that's ordinance 2890. Passes. 220124, request for consideration of changing authorized signatures for Bryant Bank, Iberia Bank, Raymond James, and Regions Bank.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
we probably need to consider the assistant city clerk first, because he's named on the
Oh,
signature.
you're right. So we'll take that out of order. 280124, we'll take that first. Request to appoint Bo Segrist as assistant city clerk.
Motion to approve.
Okay, moved
Second.
by Mrs. Smith, second by Mr. Gwaltney. Have that in front of you. Any questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. That's passes 9-0, and that's resolution
2891. 2891.
2891.
91.
Trying to see.
Resolution or?
Is that right?
Resolution. Yeah,
No,
there-
no, it's resolution
2410.
24
Oh,
dash,
sorry.
24 dash.
I was looking at the.
Seven, right?
Yeah, that's 10.
Is it 10?
2014.
2410, they say.
2410?
Sorry, steering you wrong.
Okay. All right, so that passes unanimously. Congratulations, Mr. Assistant City Clerk. So we'll go back up here to 220124, now that you're the Assistant City Clerk. Request for consideration of changing authorized signatures for Bryant Bank, Iberia Bank, Raymond James, and Regions Bank.
So we're removing Melody and putting Bo
That's correct.
on, okay. Got it. Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, I heard Mrs. Smith and second by Mrs. Nelms, to approve that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. 9-0, that passes. Resolution 2411. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
That is correct,
Okay, 2411.
although you shouldn't listen to me.
We're almost finished. 230124, request for consideration of renewal Cobb's Allen insurance policy coming to us from the mayor. As you recall, we had this, we didn't really have an official item in finance, but we did discuss this, so we all got the information on that. So there's not really a report from finance, so I'm just looking for a motion to approve the renewal.
Yes.
So moved.
He can make the motion, I'll second it.
Okay, Mr. Harden made the motion.
Yeah.
Mrs. Smith seconded it, and discussion.
trouble with
Go ahead,
Ms. Nell.
discussion.
Oh, I don't,
Did you have discussion?
no, I didn't have any.
Okay.
No.
Any questions? Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign, 9-0. That passes. 2412, resolution 2412. 2401, request for consideration of an ABC 160 special retail, more than 30-day license for AUM Homewood doing business as Residence Inn at 2790 US 280. As I understand, we have received a letter of no objection from police, but we do not have fire, so I would think the appropriate motion would be as to having no objection pending the approval from fire.
I've not received anything from police or fire, and typically I receive at least one from police on this property.
Okay, Mr. Segrist, I believe you received something from the police department. If you could just make sure Mr. Gwaltney's copied on all
Yeah,
those.
yeah.
And I might have it. I was traveling today, so I didn't check my email. But
We'll verify that.
And this is the hotel being developed next to Bricktops?
It is.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
can we confirm, is this the license that came from ABC? Because 160 seems odd for an on-premise. Like it should be 60 or 70 or 80. But if that's what came from ABC, I guess it is right.
Does
Most
anyone
likely.
know what the
Well,
special,
It's not our problem if it's not right,
It's
so
a hotel.
we don't, just curious.
I think
Those
it's-
60 does sound correct, just from
Yeah, that's,
history, but
I mean, yeah, that's their problem to fix, I guess,
yeah,
if
you
they,
can only approve what they send.
yeah, that's right.
okay.
Just curious, thank you.
So does someone have a motion as to not having objection?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Gwaltney and Mr. Harden. Second of that. That's pending the approval from fire. A contingent on the approval from fire. Any questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. That passes 9-0. All right, 2501, request for consideration of ABC 011, Lounge Retail Liquor Class 2 for Toddy's, located at 1919 28th Avenue South. We have received letters of no objection from police and fire, correct, Mr. Siggers?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Haven't seen it. but-
okay, so, as having no objection, okay, Mr. Warburton made that motion, and second by Counselor Alaman. Sorry, he was done, I heard him first. All right, any other questions on that? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed by the same sign, that's 9-0, that passes. 2601, lots of people wanting liquor licenses. Request for consideration of ABC's 020 Restaurant Retail Liquor License for Hero Acquisitions, doing business as Hero Donuts and Buns, 1726 28th Avenue South. We have received letters of no objection from police and fire on that one. So
That is
there a
correct.
motion?
Well, we've received police. They had their fire inspection last Wednesday. I do not know the results of that, so I would say I'd make a motion for approval pending confirmation from fire that they are good.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Gwaltney made that motion, with the exception of fire, contingent on the approval from fire. And then that was seconded by Mr. Wolverton.
Yeah, we had theirs.
Any questions on that? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign, that's 9-0, that passes. All right, last item, 270124, request for consideration of approval of vouchers for period January 9th, 2024 through the 29th. That's a lot of days. Mr. Gwaltney, I defer to you for a report on this.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. I reviewed the POs and the invoices and the manuals today, had a couple of questions, and Mr. Burgett he's happy to answer those. I had some for engineering as well. Everything looked good, and the questions came through clear, so I would make a motion for approval.
And I would second that.
Okay, Mr. Gwaltney made the motion. Mrs. Smith seconded it. Sorry, she'd already seconded. Apologize. Thank you for your work on that. I know it's a lot. Any questions, comments? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. That passes 9-0, and that is resolution 2413. Yeah, 2413. All right, Mayor.
Very brief tonight since we've been here for quite some time. First of all, I want to say, I hate that Melody was not feeling well for the proclamation tonight, but if everybody please would reach out to her. Her last day, of course, is Wednesday with the city of Homewood, and she's been here for a long time, so please just give her well wishes. Congratulations, Bo. Sure. Condolence, right?
Yeah.
No, and then Walter, great job running the meeting tonight. I think I don't know, it seems every time that you have to run the meeting, there's like 9 public hearings. So I think Alex is doing this on purpose. But great job as always. Thank you to Cale and the committee with Jennifer and some of the other residents, which I think is a fantastic idea to have some of the developers and the businesses here work with us on these items. And thank you for Mike for reading it as succinctly as possible tonight. And then lastly, just want to wish O. Henry's happy 30th birthday here in Homewood. We did the business spotlight for first quarter of 2024 there last week. Blake and his crew were out there, and they gave away some Kaneka sausage biscuits and coffee and things. So we had a really good time. But O. Henry's is a staple here, and just give them your business. That's it.
Oh, Mayor, before I forget, when is the State of the City address now? It's February? 20th, okay. Everybody will put that on their calendar.
At the Valley Hotel.
At the Valley Hotel. Okay, thank you. Okay, now we're going to do council comments. Mr. Gwaltney.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. I will set public safety immediately following finance at 5 p.m.
Right.
Okay, I only have one comment. Congratulate Mr. Segrist. I should say Frank J. Segrist on that. What's the J stand for? I like it. I like it. We'll have to work on getting the J vetted. So congratulations. That's all.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gwaltney. Mrs. Gear.
Yes, so just yes, if you have anybody that might be a good candidate for the Arts Council, please do send them our way. They want to fill a couple of the new spots that were opened up with their bylaws. And they really, the way their bylaws are written, they don't have to fill all 4 of those, but they can fill up to 4, and they would like to because they want to have a lot of good plans for the coming year. And that reminds me about the Shaun of the South performance coming up in a week or so. I think they've sold tons of tickets. There's still some left, but they're excited. And if you haven't gotten your tickets, please consider. And that's really all. Thanks a lot. Oh, Bo, congratulations, or condolences, whichever.
Thank you. Councilor Alaman.
Just congratulations to Bo. That's it for me tonight.
Thank you. Councilor Wolverton.
Congrats, Bo. The Salamander Festival was on Saturday. It was a great time. I think was had by all. I know my kids enjoyed salamanders and turtles and snakes and owls and everything else that was there. So obviously, thanks to everybody that puts that on, including the HEC's involvement there. And then really just setting committee, I guess, to follow public safety And lastly, just, thanks to Parks and Rec, basketball season is kind of winding down and, on to the next season. But I wish Wesley's team good luck tonight. They're in a playoff game I'm about to head to, so. And then all the rest. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Counselor Smith?
Set special issues to follow Public Works, and I think the Sean and Three on a String, I think it's this Sunday at the high school auditorium at 2:30, is that right? 2:30,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. And I think it's,
Sunday at
I hear great things about it, so I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. And the proceeds are gonna support the band's trip to Ireland.
Okay, great. Counselor Nelms?
I don't really have anything tonight, but congratulations, Bo.
All
You'll
right,
get to see me even more now.
very good. Counselor Andrus?
Are you sure you want to do this, Bo? Do you know what you are getting into? Congratulations. Yeah. I know,
Right,
right?
right.
Thank you. Thank you for your service to the city. Thank you. All right, speaking of servants of the city, okay, so this is little John, not my John, obviously, John, who lives on Ventura. I wanted to show him in his new Homewood swag. John likes to sit in his bay window on Ventura and help manage the Amway situation. And so last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago now, but there was a mattress. I was texted by one of the neighbors, and they said, can we put the mattress out and for pickup? And I said, sure. Let me text, Chris or Berkeley to have it pick up. And so I texted Chris, and he said, we'll send someone right over. And then the neighbor texted me back to say that John was very concerned that there was a mattress outside and what was going to happen. And, so anyway, so I'm sending these messages to Chris. And then we decided to send him some swag. So Chris got in the car upon all of this. They went immediately, picked the mattress up. And Chris got in the car and drove over and brought the hat to John. And he was, he wasn't there at the moment, so he left it on the front porch on the little bunny statue that they have. And so Mom, who I had just met for the first time now, I've been texting with a neighbor, Mom texted me a video of John coming very excited that the hat was on the rabbit, and very excited about his new hat. And then Mom sent me pictures of John with his new hat from the city of Homewood. So I just cannot tell you, I could not live my life these days without Chris Thacker. I mean, that man is a saint. He is so wonderful. He's so easygoing. He's so pleasant. He's so sweet, and he is so responsive. I will text him sometimes. You know how when you're driving through the neighborhood and you're like, you see an inlet cover that's upside down or whatever. I'm like, hey Siri, email Chris Thacker on Saturday morning at 7:30. Chris, do not respond to this email. Respond on Monday, and he does. He's like, I can't help it. I just have to do it right now. So he's amazing, and the city, we're so lucky to have him. So, okay, I'm done. Didn't need to, but thank you for asking. Very nice job, Mr. City Clerk. But I don't need to, but thank you. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Bo, also congratulations, and as y'all can tell, I took this job, I said I'd never be Jennifer Andrus, and I'm doing a great job of not being so tied into all this. I'm not sure what my role is as a city council person, but I know that she's taking care of our ward every day, so thank you, Jennifer Andrus.
Thank you. We've had our meeting too long when I hear the vacuum cleaner. Thank you for your patience as we work through the agenda, and appreciate all your service to Homewood. And with that, we are adjourned.